Thank you for joining us for the next session. We will soon begin session 4, the ocean tourism. For those of you out in the lobby, please come into the hall and be seated. You may sit wherever you wish, so please feel free to take a seat. In the hall, make sure you wear your masks at all times. We will soon begin the next session. So please make sure your mobile phone is on silent mode. We will also provide simultaneous interpretation services throughout the event. So tune in to channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English. Thank you. Welcome to the session 4 on the second day of the International Incheon Ocean Forum, the biggest one of its kind in this industry. And the topic of the session 4 is marine tourism, and we'll talk about beyond COVID-19 and ways to revitalize the marine tourism. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break. And before we start the session, let us invite the moderator first to listen to the introduction of the session. Let us invite Ms. Daisy Park, Regional Director of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Thank you for the introduction and good afternoon, everyone. I am Chea Park, a Regional Director of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative of the Economy of Republic of Indonesia. And tourism industry is probably the hardest hit by the COVID situation. And according to a report of the KTO, the sales revenue drastically decreased by the COVID-19. And the travel agencies also saw the decrease by 95% in total. And the rate of decrease is 8%, which is 7 times that of the comparable industries. And according to the Korea Tourism Research Institute, its October report says the beach and the ocean has become the most favorable and most attractive destinations for people. So this shows how COVID situation has brought both crisis and opportunity, and that's why we're standing at a turning point. Many countries are reopening their borders and ready to take the leap again. So we'd like to take a look at the lessons learned and changes facing us and how to wisely design our strategies for the post-pandemic era. So we have a dream team for marine tourism, and I'd like to introduce each speaker. First, we have Vice President Song Gi-lyung, who will talk to us about how big data can be utilized to analyze the changes of our industry. And we also have Chief Executive Officer Christopher Cocker, who will talk to us about the wisdom and practical cases shown by Pacific Islanders. And also have Director Ida Bagus Namurupa from Indonesia, and Chief Executive Officer Petro Manofolao, and Professor Sangwon Park, and Professor Tonoglo. So we have a very special presenter, Mr. Ki-lyung Song, Vice President of Five Company, who will talk to us about the changes shown through the big data analysis. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Good afternoon. It's great to meet you all. The change in our lives are becoming quicker, and how can we understand it better? And if we understand it, how can we align our lives to that change? That's something that we are all thinking about. And after the pandemic, so much has changed. And so my measures are also deepening, and surprisingly, many people have been quickly adapting to the change. So I'm also surprised by the adaptability of humans. So today, I want to talk about the changes in our lives and how that has changed our leisure lives as well. And because this session is on ocean tourism, I would like to share some changes in the industry as well. So first, changes in life. First, mobility. So due to COVID-19, we are thinking about space in different ways. So first, homes. Because of social distancing, we are limited in terms of movement, mobility. So people start to decorate their homes, interior and planteriors. This is creating new industries, and we're also posting how rich our lives have become. And then we have automobiles. So the expectations in the industry and the actual customer behavior are different. People don't move, so the industry thought that people wouldn't use cars that much. But in fact, people want more cars because they can't, they have to move, but they can't use public transportation, which leads to people think of owning their own cars. Today, if you order a car, it takes about 12 to 18 months to have your car delivered to you. So in supply chain and in the management itself is quite lean, so they don't keep storage. They don't store their products. And the parts are quite limited. In case of semiconductors, the personal devices that we're seeing they're using, especially for digital devices, where you don't have enough parts, and because they didn't make orders in the industry, the product's delivery is becoming later, which leads to a condition where it became difficult to purchase cars. With smartphones, some people thought that they're simply going to watch their cell phones, mobile phones, and they're not going to drive. They're not going anywhere, but they're sitting in their rooms watching, playing games and watching webtoons. And I don't need a car. And in some cases, for example, with car sharing, made people not think that they don't need cars. But the thing is, it's dangerous. Sharing cars with other people is dangerous. So Uber users, they shifted to another business model. If you want to, there are people who want to buy new cars, and people are more interested in driving itself. And we spend more time in cars. When people were in cars, they listened to music, but nowadays they do so much more. For example, they drink coffee through Starbucks, through a drive-through Starbucks. And we use smart devices in our cars. So we have to charge our devices. We watch YouTube, and drive-through theaters are also popular. We listen to audiobooks and we do Instagram. And some people even have their own karaoke to sing. So vehicles become a space for life. It was simply a vehicle to move somewhere, but nowadays cars are so much more than that. So the space of our cars are becoming more and more important. So cars can become a space for leisure. It becomes a destination. So the design of the cars and the functions become more important. For example, the audio system needs increase, leading to greater demands in new lifestyles. So cars are now becoming a space for life. So we looked into the data. First, we do basic things in our cars. We go to work, commute, and eat out in our cars or through our cars. For example, in the past, we would commute through a subway, but now we commute through cars. Second, we just go out. We call it to go on a drive because we want to go somewhere. Again, because of COVID, we're worried of infections, so we just sit in the car and drive. That becomes a ritual. That was a second observation that we made. And the third one is called camping in our cars. So it's sleeping in our cars. It's called car camping. Camping is actually already quite familiar, but camping in our cars has actually been surging since COVID. So it's something new. So car camping is a totally new market that has been created. So if you're doing business, this is the direction that you need to go, because there was no one in this industry previously. This is carnival camp driving. So a family goes out with their cars and camps there. And we have these kind of nice, beautiful pictures of of camping in your cars. So in the past, we would go on a trip and sleep at a hotel. But now we enjoy that in our cars. So this is a new type of tourism. So we enjoy our first car camping, and it was quite interesting to take a photo. In the past, we had rituals in cars, and then we took photos of the logo at the steering wheel. So that was something that people showed off. But nowadays, the trunk view is very popular, where the scene is shown in the picture. So it's a very different perspective. So recently, car makers are putting a lot of effort into designing this back part of the car. That's totally different. So that's how the industry changes. We're not looking into the industry itself, but we're looking into how we look at our life. So in the left side, you can see the beautiful scenery, and then we see our children enjoying that scene. And one of the trendiest pictures is the third one. Look at that that folks' face. You're already compensated. That's about how we help our lives and compensate our efforts. Outdoor items are also very popular nowadays. There are so many brands coming out. That's because it's a beautiful life. Every single one of the items needs to be pretty. So that enables a better experience for the people. So how are we going to help these people have a better experience? That's something that we really need to focus on today. But there's a challenge. If you have experienced sleeping in a car, it's quite difficult because of the air conditioning and heating issue. And to solve this problem, in case of diesel or using fuel, there are dangers. First, global warming, and then we have emission problems. In the past, it was very difficult to solve this issue, but now we have electric vehicles, EVs. In case of mid-size EVs, for 4 families, this car can be used for 4 full days. So it already has the energy necessary for camping. So with a electric vehicle, you can enjoy your car camping experience. So therefore, EVs are no longer something of the future, but something of today. So nowadays, everything becomes practical, leading to greater demands in EVs and a growth of the industry. That's something very interesting. So we need to observe these. And so here, cars are a space, and space is experience, and mobility life is a fight against space. And our competitors then are hotels. That's a huge change. So how far do we have to look at in terms of change in our lives? That changes the entire structure. So today this is an ocean forum. So your competitors would be yachts. That's related to accommodation. So cars and accommodation, right? Now we have pull-out kitchens and also changes in our offices. So this freestyle life is rising, making changes to everything in our lives. Change is becoming quicker. Our eating trends have changed, and eating alone has become very popular. It's something that we've been doing together, but now we do it alone. How's the industry going to help these people? So we look into these phenomenons, and we need to provide the related services. That's something that we want to do and have to do in the coming years. And then we need systems to support these changes. So this is a trend. In the past, you would want to go on a diet to lose weight, but nowadays you eat better to live a healthy life. In the past, you would eat together and drink together. It was a public gathering, but nowadays it's more of a private gathering. And in the past, things that you did outdoors now comes indoors, making our lives more richer. So our lives are changing like this. So as an industry, we need to think about how we can help these changes. So today we're talking about tourism. So let's dive into tourism. I looked into the data. This is quite old. It's from 2014. It's a difference between tourism and traveling. So here, traveling, the demand for traveling or investment on traveling has been on a rise. But in tourism, the term tourism is quite standard. Uh, Tourism is quite, it's a written format. You don't ask your friend, hey, do you want to go on tourism? You don't say that. It's usually like very formal, like in a title or an institute name, like the Korea Tourism Organization. So you can see that it's very different. You have to help not tourism, but traveling. So that's a different perspective. So traveling is everyday life, but tourism is an industry. So we need to help these components. We need to look into the components of traveling. So in the past, it was like this. You go travel 8 countries in 8 days. You just go to a country and take a picture, and that's it. Because in the past, international traveling was very rare and difficult. So it was important to go somewhere and take a picture and show others. But nowadays, it becomes longer. You travel, for example, 2 countries for about 8 days. And going further, you don't simply go somewhere, but you really enjoy something, experience something in that place. So we have nomadic life. So you go somewhere else to do something. And the pandemic accelerated that. We have non face to face events and lives more common in our lives due to the pandemic. So the everyday things that we do, the jobs, and our everyday lives, it kind of became a mix. So where we live, where we work, where we go for traveling, that border is becoming more vague. So we need to think about how to plan and design this. So our daily experiences are becoming more common, and due to shared economy, we can do more things. And we have more input. YouTube, travel YouTubers are very common. So these are making our experiences more richer and evolve. This is again another old data from the 2015 data and 2019 data. So this is the travel differences in Jeonju and Gangneung. Jeonju was actually very popular in the past, in the Jeonju Hanok village. When there's a new experience, a new place, it's somewhere that we have to visit, a must visit place. But today it's very different. People are not really interested in Jeonju anymore because they haven't been able to expand. They lost the key drivers. So the Hanok village in Jeonju, as you can see, has been going down. But now Gangneung is rising constantly. We had Ojukon or a new Gangneung that we need to visit. So what was the motive behind that? For example, there was gomak, or a type of food, popular food in Gangneung. Also, there was Seamark Hotel, a very popular hotel in Gangneung. The scenes are very Instagrammable, and you can show it off to your friends. So without any marketing costs, you can help people experience more. Also, Terra Rosa, the coffee shop. Gangneung is today called as the capital city of coffee. Traditionally, it used to be the place for traditional destinations, but nowadays it has changed into a more modern face. So this is a different perspective in looking at the experiences for tourism. And then there was also the Seoul-Yangyang Highway that was newly opened, as well as the Pyeongchang Olympics, Winter Olympics. So these all created a synergy. So not one element can make this happen. It all connects and leads to a surge. But what's more important here is the trendiness. Those who want to live a trendy life, they don't move simply by reconstructing the past. They want something new. An example would be surfing in Yangyang. And locality, the special aspects of that specific region, needs to be something we should be able to offer and think about. So we're using data to understand this. Now, we should not settle just because there was a successful case, but we need to take further steps to create new things, to maintain that success and create new successes as well. So observing this change and understanding the change is based on today. So what happened after COVID? Do we travel in COVID? It was contracted, but we adapted. Do you have plans for the summer? We're expecting an endemic, but we're seeing more surges nowadays, but we're still planning for summer vacations, right? Because we have to live our life. We don't stop. So although we may contract, we still want support for our life to continue. So all of this can become the ingredient for life. So again, we need to, based on data, we need to support and help these people through our industry. That is our role. Of course, people are less interested in traveling, and domestic traveling has been more surging. And international traveling is also increasing back again, but transportation is not yet quite ready. But we are preparing. And also for international events, people are having more expectations, and a lot has been being planned. Then what kind of travel do people want? So not far from the metropolitan area, including accommodation, and oceans are very important. This slide isn't here just because this is an ocean forum. Oceans are so important today because it's open, it's expansive. All of that is included in oceans. So the locality and things to do are very important. And especially color. What color do oceans have? There are many different colors, but it also means uniqueness. Something very colorful, very varied experiences can make that place very attractive. Also, things that you can enjoy as a traveler, rail bikes, or something that only exists in that specific region. So, what's most important here is don't benchmark. You shouldn't benchmark. Once you start benchmarking, you become a copycat. So, it needs to be unique. How can you create something unique and special? That's something you really need to think about. Because there needs to be a reason for people to go there. In the past, the experience itself was important, but nowadays there's plenty of experience. But now you need to be able to explain why you need to experience that. And then things to eat and see, of course, important. And the movement shouldn't be too much. And everything should be included here in the travel. So travel, again, is everyday life. So our expectations are higher. It creates a new market. What's most important is that labor is falling. If you have to work all week long, you can't go anywhere. So we have non face to face work in the pandemic. And so this change in our lifestyle and way of work leads to more changes in how we travel. So we need to understand these changes and measure the changes and support the changes. We need policies, and it needs to be the starting point for designing traveling. And through this newly created market, we need to reinforce the market. So observe all the changes. So, what in the next decade? We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have a routine. You manage not your day, but your week and a month and a year. So I want to fill in my everyday life and store and leave and document our lives. So how are our experiences accumulated, and that creates our future. So these are very successful cases. So how are you going to offer special experiences and what implications we can earn from them? That's something that we should look into. And if we can create that implication, we can specify our future. Traveling is about pictures. That one picture can remind us of that memory, and that becomes an asset. So everything is a message. Brand is a message, content is the message, network is the message, lifestyle is the message. Everything is a message. So that experience can be an ingredient. So understanding that message of an individual is very important. So we look into the minds of the people. We don't look into the data, but into the minds of the people. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. You talked about the changes in our lives as well as leisure and tourism as well. So I think the message in our lives was made into big data. It was very interesting. Thank you again. I think your presentation is always very fun and interesting and has a lot of insight. I hope we can share more during the discussion.
Now let us move on to the presentation section of this session, and we'll start with Chief Executive Officer Christopher Cocker from the Pacific Tourism Organization, and his topic is Resilient Tourism Sailing into 2030. Let us invite him. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Thank you very much for joining us. And please begin your presentation.
Nice. Okay. Well, Onya, Seo, warm Pacific greetings. Thank you first to IFFO Secretariat and also Ms. Daisy Park for your ongoing support. I'd like to present a short PowerPoint presentation on who SPTO is. The next slide, please. The Pacific Tourism Organization was established in 1983 and is based in Suva, Fiji. We're the only intergovernmental regional organization mandated by the leaders to market and develop tourism in the region. We have 20 Pacific members, ranging from Easter Island in the east, right up to the north, the Republic of Marshall Islands, and to the west, Timor-Leste, and down to the Kingdom of Tonga in the South Pacific. We have over 100 private sector members. Next slide. Just a small snapshot on COVID-19 Pacific impact snapshot on what's happening, particularly comparing 2019 and 2020. The tourism receipts to the Pacific fell from US 4 billion in 2019 to about US 681 million. The contribution of tourism to the Pacific's GDP fell from about 7.8% to 1.3% in 2020. Our air arrivals to the Pacific drastically dropped from around 83% to 391,000 in 2020. And the cruise arrivals to the Pacific also dropped from about 74% as shown in our diagram here. Next, please. One of the key challenges for our Pacific tourism is the limited global and regional airline connections and frequency, and it's more harder to get to our Pacific Island destinations because of the lack of frequency due to COVID-19. The loss of critical staff, institutional knowledge, and job skills in the past 3 years, particularly to other sectors, and the access to finance to keep businesses afloat. I also would like to highlight the long-term delay in restart because our Pacific Island countries' readiness for border reopening is slower than anticipated. Out of our 20 Pacific nations, only 6 member countries have opened to global travel. The other challenge we have, of course, is natural disasters, which have increased risk on the national and regional capacity to recover from the pandemic impacts. And finally, I think difficult to forecast for the future, particularly with what's happening around the increase of monkeypox that's happening globally, etc., and also, of course, COVID is still lingering around. Next slide, please. However, it's been a blessing in disguise that COVID has given us time to sit back and reset and rethink and rebuild. Next, please. In our strategic plan for the next 4 years, we had to revise it so it will consider changes because of the impact of COVID-19. Our vision is our Pacific Islands empowered by and benefiting from sustainable tourism. Our mission is sustainable tourism development through innovative partnerships. And we reduced our core areas of focus from 7 to these 3 key ones, which is marketing, research and statistics, and sustainable tourism planning and development. We were also very fortunate to develop key strategies to help drive the SPTO in achieving these 3 areas of focus. The first one was a digital strategy for the next 5 years, a Pacific tourism statistics strategy for the next 10 years, and finally, a Pacific sustainable tourism policy framework for the next 10 years. Next slide. Last week at the Forum Leaders meeting, our leaders in the Pacific endorsed the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent, which will also provide more strategic direction to the whole of the Pacific, as well as us regional organizations, and as well as development partners. I want to draw your attention to the thematic areas that are shown in the third row in this case, where there's regional leadership and also regionalism. Our connection, which is shown in the last row, is basically our statement of commitment amongst our Council of Tourism Ministers to commit to sustainable tourism. Out of our 20 member countries, 9 have committed themselves to sustainable or signed our statement of commitment to sustainable tourism. The next thematic area, which is mainly on people-centered development, and our linkage to that is through our sustainable tourism policy framework, which has a goal too, which is thriving and inclusive communities. The third is peace and security. And as you are all aware, our sector in tourism is uniquely placed to work as an effective tool for peace and security building. And the fourth thematic area is resource and economic development. All our 3 strategies drive economic development. In terms of climate change and disasters and ocean and environment, we have a goal in our sustainable tourism policy framework, which is goal 4, which is healthy islands and oceans. And I believe that this is very important in moving forward. Our greatest asset in the Pacific is our ocean and our culture and our people and also environment. And the final one is technology and also connectivity. With regards from SPTO, our digital strategy and the innovative partnerships goals that we have on improving air access, as well as improving cruise and yacht in the Pacific, connects very well to this thematic area. Next slide, please. So in the past 3 years, we've been very busy in terms of innovative partnerships in providing recovery mechanisms to help the tourism sector recover. And I won't go through the whole list, but these are examples. The first one is an SME Ready Recovery Online Toolkit in partnership with the US Embassy based in Fiji. I also would like to highlight, we have also developed a jobs link website to enable our people in the region to find jobs, not only in the tourism sector around the region, but also in other sectors. Republic of Korea is funding a Pacific Cooperation Tourism Recovery Project, and this is managed by our rep in Korea, Miss Daisy Park, which is based on developing an online store that sells niche products from the Pacific, as well as promoting the destination of origin. We have also signed a collaborative memorandum of understandings, and I just want to highlight the first time that the UN-SIDS regional organizations have come together to share lessons, best practices, etc. We've signed a partnership with Destination Mekong, the Indian Ocean, the Caribbean Tourism, the ASEAN Travel Association, as well as the African Tourism Council. Of course, we have our sustainable tourism commitments. The Pacific signed up for the Glasgow Declaration and the COP26, as well as our own respective sustainable tourism commitments. Moving forward, we are working with the ADB Pacific Private Sector Development Initiative Phase 4 program, which is funded by New Zealand, Australia, and ADB on enabling our private sector to recover during this time of COVID. And finally, a New Zealand funded program for the next 4 years on Pacific digital transformation. Next slide. Just want to share with you a short video on community-based tourism, which is turning trash into cash. Thank you. Please show the video. Thank you. Next one. The next slide is just a short 1-minute video on a community project in Palau on ecotourism. And this was also, we're also planning to replicate this in the remaining member countries. Please enjoy. Next one. And the way forward for post-pandemic, driven by SPTO and also the transformation of our tourism sector, is focusing on responsible recovery, global and regional cooperation, definitely regional leadership from SPTO and cooperating, resulting in more country solutions and benefits for our members, a focus on digital transformation, and of course, an integrated approach within SPTO, our member countries on a regional scale and global, and committing to measuring sustainability in terms of economic, environmental, as well as social, cultural, and of course, sustainable financing from our development partners. Next slide. I think important as key takeaways and moving forward, to drive Pacific tourism to recover post-pandemic, SPTO will be resetting through digital transformation, rethinking through innovative collaboration regionally and globally, and rebuilding through responsible, sustainable tourism recovery that depends on research and data insights. Finally, I just want to show you a 1-minute video to welcome you to the Pacific where ours is yours. Please enjoy.
Last part of your presentation?
Thank you. Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. 여러분 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
Please give him another round of applause. That was Mr. Christopher Cocker, Chief Executive Officer from the SPTO, and we really enjoyed the videos. That was beautiful.
The next presenter is Ida Bagus Namarupa of Jungle Gold Bali. Before he begins his presentation, we will watch a video.
Hello, stay healthy, everyone. Welcome back again on this day, or my Balinese complete name is Ida Bagus Namarupa. Call me this day. So every day I'm running the pot chocolate factory here in the village. I'm the chairman of Chanangsari Village Tourism. Well, here Now we are at the Charangsari Royal Palace, or in Indonesian or Balinese language, we call it Puri Agung Charangsari. So Puri Agung Charangsari, or the Royal Palace of Charangsari, is the place where our national hero was born. Our national hero is the only one from Bali. It's Igusti Ngurah Rai. Igusti Ngurah Rai was born here in this big house compound Royal Palace area. So that's why for the village tourism, our tagline is Charangsari, the historical village tourism, because we have a very strong history here. Here, all of our great spirit coming from our hero, Igusti Ngurah Rai. So later, I will show you the compound of where Igusti Ngurah Rai was born. All right, so now we are already in one of the central compound of the Royal Palace in Charangsari. So we call it Saran Agang. Saran is mean the compound, the house compound. Agang is the big. So why the people call it the big one? Because it's the central. Because in this Puri Agung Charangsari, or the Royal Palace compound, living more than 100 families, and they all has a blood relationship with our hero, Igusti Ngurah Rai. Well, continuing my first lecture, my first story about sustainability in Balinese version, it is Sri Tanahana, what we started from here. How we giving, how we respect our history, how we respect our culture. Indeed, we really would like all of our generation well known about the story, well known about the history, and then they will be very respect for and then we would like to build the awareness of our young generation, because Puri, or the Royal Palace, still exists until today, and will exist forever here in Bali as a controlling for our tradition and culture sustainably. So here in this place, you can see we have lots of pictures over there from the ancestor of this Royal Palace, and the latest one is Igusti Ngurah Rai itself, our national hero. So he's born here. So we welcoming you to come to this village, and of course, when you arrive in Charangsari village, the first place we will offer to all of you from all over the world to visit is Puri Agung Charangsari, the Royal Palace where our national hero was born. Just to seem like when you touch down Bali, the flight attendant will telling you while welcoming at Igusti Ngurah Rai International Airport. So here, where is Igusti Ngurah Rai was born. So in this Royal Palace compound, you can find lots of unique buildings, lots of old buildings still keeping well, still look offering well in 8 different sections of area. Because like normally Balinese, we only have 3 section area in the house compound, but here, because it is a royal palace, they have it 8. So this is has a really deep philosophy. As a leader, you have to have 8 principles leading the nation, leading the country, leading the community. So that's why they have 8-part section of the house compound in this royal palace. So what is that? Just come here. I'm not gonna telling you all of the complete each building on this short story. So just come here, and the Royal Palace family will welcome you very well here. Swastiastu. Well, today we're very lucky. I will introduce to all of you one of a very key person in our village, the chairman of Charangsari village. His name is Mr. Imade Sudano. So he's our leaders in formal government in Bali, called Kepala Desa, or the chairman of Charangsari village. So now he would like to say hello and introduce yourself to all of you guys. Please, Pak Desa, silakan.
Om Swastiastu. Kami selaku Kepala Desa Carangsari mengucapkan selamat datang di Desa Wisata Desa Carangsari. Dan kami siap menerima kunjungan wisatawan seluruh dunia yang siap membantu perekonomian di masyarakat kami yang ada di Desa Carangsari. Om Santi Santi Santi.
So, everyone, so we have to telling to you the key why we can build ecosystem in the villages. The most important is how the local government or the lowest government level, like what he's leading in the village, giving us a very great support. Yeah, support how to keep the village clean, how to maintain the rubbish, and controlling everything. The road maintaining, the irrigation maintaining is all doing by this man here, the chairman of Desa Wisata Carangsari, or chairman of Carangsari village. So he been doing a great job. So now I'm standing here in one of another historical destination here in Carangsari village. But here, this is a temple. Yeah, this is look like normal temple, like a million of a temple you can see around Bali. But the name of this temple is Pusarin Jagat. Yeah, Pusarin Jagat is mean the central of earth, the central of universe. So what we believe here in this temple, we have a very strong energy, positive energy.
네, 짧은 영상 먼저 감상하셨고요. 바로 이다바고스 나마르타 리더의 발표를 듣겠습니다. 연결해 보겠습니다. 안녕하세요. Hello.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
good afternoon. Good afternoon. And sending love from Bali to all of you guys in Korea and all over the world.
Yes, nice. Thank you. So please begin your presentations.
Okay, so well, first of all, thank you very much for the forum, and special thanks for Miss Daisy Park, yeah, giving me the opportunity and time to just sharing a little how we develop the community based on tourism. So community based on tourism for Bali or for Indonesia or maybe for the world, it's a must in the future, because the goal of community based on tourism is, of course, how we can get the sustainability, yeah, in 3 sectors. Next slide. Yeah. So the goal of the sustainability is, first, we can make sure with the community based on tourism, we can make sure we can get sustainability environment. Yeah, because if we're talking about tourism, I already heard a lot from another presentation, which is always a very great, yeah, because sometime in one of the destination area, there are, especially here in Indonesia or in Bali, we has a lot of community. Yeah, so the community must be involved. We have to starting to educate them how important is the environment, how important is the nature, and also from the beautiful nature, from the beauty of nature, that's also have a lot of potential to do with natural tourism. That's why when all of the community have enough education, have enough knowledge and experience to look after the nature and the environment, especially, of course, the sustainability of the environment will, yeah, that's one of our goal of community based on tourism. Like what I said in my video, three hita karana, that's 3 principles of a people life in Bali or in Indonesia. First, how we keeping balance with God, and the second, how we're keeping balance with human to human. We don't care where are you guys coming from, what is the religion, what color is our skin, we don't care, but we have to make balance. And the third one, how we make balance between human and nature. Okay, and then after that, the second one, a sustainability of tradition, especially here in a country like Indonesia or in the island like Bali. We're very rich with culture. We're really rich with tradition, starting from art, dance, or music, or cuisine, or clothes, like what the clothes I wear today. So all of this thing will becoming sustained if all of this thing giving added value for the local people, giving economic value for the people. And then they will proud to be a community. They will proud to be a local people. But again, the key is how we can educate, how we can collaborate, how we can build the ecosystem, which is we can giving all of the positive benefit for the local people. They will be look after their culture, what they have from the ancestor, and of course, how we can educate these people also to open their mindset to have a global link and global information and global relationship, because yeah, everything is going global, modern, and digital right now. So that the third one is added value, the economic of local people. That's the goal of the sustainability. That's our goal. Yeah, how we can giving the real impact for the local people. Which is giving you a real sample from what the factory we built with our team is Jungle Gold Chocolate Factory. 12 years ago, we just buying the 1 kilogram of cacao bean from our farmers is only $1 12 years ago. But by processing, by educating together, by commitment together, how to process a premium chocolate, now we're giving direct to all of our local farmers is $5 for 1 kilo. So here we can see a really clear impact in economic and social and culture. So culture here in our factory, chocolate factory, we just educating all of our community of farmers especially, stop using chemically, stop using pesticide, which is healthier for the farmer itself and healthier for the environment. And also we will get a better quality of organic cacao. And this is just a small sample how we can proven if we can collaborate with all of the community, all of these three things will be sustained forever. Okay, next. So now how we started. This is based on my personal experience and my personal team experience. We just, me, myself, volunteering from 12 years ago, approximately. How we can start it? First, we have to do identification. I guarantee all of the village in all of the world, all of the area and all over, they have the resource, the local resource. So we have to do identification here. So here we need to involve the academician, the business, and NGO, and everyone who has interest with this. Yeah. So what we identification is the natural base source and the culture, the tradition, all social organization. Like in Indonesia, there are a lot of social organization like a group of music, a group of artists, a group of dancer, a group of special local culinary, something like that. And then the second one, we educate all of the community. So this project, we have to do it together. Yeah. So especially here in Indonesia or in Bali, we have two different government, like formal government and traditional council. So both of this has the same vision, the same mission. So we educate all of our community about what is our program, how to keep our culture and everything. And also we have to involve the millennials or the Z generation, because they much better in technology in more in global information. And then the third one, how to start the community based on tourism, is promoting. Yeah, promoting. Like today, personal is very happy. So I can sharing here about community based on tourism to all of you in the forum by promoting. Yeah, of course, with all resource, like offline, with our travel agent, our partners, our OTA or yeah, online travel agent, and we have joining so as much thing as forum like what we do today. So we just yeah, we get enough exposure. And then the fourth, we have to be collaboration. Yeah, developing links. Yeah, we have to do synchronization between academic, between business, government, and social media and community itself. So this is really compulsory, and this is what we try, what we're starting to do from 12 years, and that's why, yeah, now we have really settled in a good proper community based on tourism here in Bali, in lots of village in Bali. Okay, next, please. Next, please. Next, please. No, no. The Now the next is how we um, set up the team and management in the village. Yeah, just the slide before the example of CBT. Sorry, please, the slide before the sample of CBT in Bali. So after we doing the fourth step of that, the last thing we have to do in the village is how we can set up team and management, because doing a management in the village or with the community base is a different story than you just set up your own company or a private sector, because here in Indonesia, the village, like a small village, they have minimal 6,000 to 10,000 people living together in one community. They has a very strong relationship. Yeah, so this is need a really special approach how you can start set up the team and management for running the community based on tourism. Based on my experience, we're developing the division in the village. Yeah, we're developing division depend on what the community interests. Yeah, like here in Indonesia or in Bali, we the first division we build is historical tourism division. So historical tourism division, this is more like what the heritage building we have here in this area, what the heritage tradition we have. So we put them here, we put them all here at our historical tourism division. And another division, we also have culture and tradition division. So we just collaboration with all of our resources in the village who interested in culture, in tradition, or who expert in culture and tradition. We put them all here in this division. And the third division, we also have a special division for a guest activity division. This is we can expand, we can innovation. We do some innovation here in a guest activity. We can do based on nature interest like. A natural sport like water rafting, like swimming, like trekking, or running competition, and other thing. Yeah, this is we call guest activity division. Or here we have a cooking class. And number four, we build the edu tourism division. Yeah, just for example, the edu tourism we build here in our area. If everyone come to the area, they can learn how to make chocolate, like edu tourism, processing from cacao bean becoming a chocolate, or the edu tourism, how to do a Balinese dance, how to do a kecak dance. This is edu tourism. Or we do some cooking class, a local cuisine of Bali. This is a part of our edu tourism division. And then the latest one, we have a special division for industry creative industry division. So this in every community, there are a lot of in a family level, they produce things, yeah, starting from food, clothes, or art. We put them here in one division. Yeah, one division. We call it creative division. So we never limited. So we just giving the opportunity for all of our community who interest in this creative industry division, because in the future this is really the core of a community-based business. So, and then also the challenge is, and we have to pass how we build the awareness of a local wisdom, because sometimes for the local people, because they do it in their daily life and they can see it very often, they don't feel proud. Yeah, so they don't feel proud, they don't see how special what culture and tradition they have. So that's we have to come and build the awareness of the local people. Hey guys, what we have is very very important. And the last one, this is very important. We open worldwide for all of our community in the village or in area, in the margin area. Okay, so thank you everyone, and I hope you can pick up a little information I did today, and then we just send a complete video. I hope you enjoy that. Thank you very much. Stay healthy together. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. So we are now in marine tourism. We are talking about how to activate marine tourism beyond COVID-19. The next presenter is from the Kiribati Tourism Authority, Mr. Petero Manu Flau. He is joining us online. Let's meet him online.
Could you hear me?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I wonder if you can hear me clearly. Thank you. Thanks, just joining us.
So
Yes.
the internet situation is not really stable at this moment. So we need some time to check out. 지금 인터넷 연결이 지금 아주 원활하지는
Sure.
Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you.
네, 다시 한번 연결을 해보겠습니다.
We'll try to reconnect.
Would you speak
Sure.
something? Can you speak something now?
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yes. We'll be fine. Please begin your presentation.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, Kamnepanani Maori, and a very warm greetings, distinguished guests and delegates this afternoon. My name is Petro Manufolau, and currently engaged as the Chief Executive Officer of the Tourism Authority of Kiribati, but I am joining you live this afternoon from the beautiful Fiji Islands. In my presentation this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I will talk to you about the future of coastal tourism in Pacific small island states and territories, and we'll be basing my presentation on a Kiribati perspective. As you know, and alluding to my colleague Chris Cocker's presentation earlier, that the Pacific is truly an ocean state. We are a coastal tourism destination, and for us in small island states and territories, the coastal tourism is core to who we are as tourism destinations. Next slide, please. Pacific small island states and territories. As you had heard in the presentation earlier from the SPTO, that the organization has a membership that spans across the Pacific with up to 20 member states. Within the 20 member states, you have a wide spectrum, a spectrum of different organizations who are at different levels of development or at market visibility. At one end of the spectrum, you have the more well-known destinations like Fiji, Tahiti, perhaps Samoa, New Caledonia. Those that would be on one end of the spectrum. But on the other end of the spectrum of the Pacific Island destination mix, we have the smaller island states. These are the likes of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, as you see there on the map. FSM is the Federated States of Micronesia, Kiribati, Nauru, Tuvalu, the Cook Islands, and Niue. And we also have international territories, the French territory of Wallis and Futuna, New Zealand's territory of Tokelau, the American Pacific state of American Samoa, and Chile's Rapa Nui up in the Far East. We're a smaller group of Pacific Island countries who have quite unique features, and along with that, we have quite unique challenges. And so by grouping together as small island states, we work together to try and elevate our needs and our interests across to the wider Pacific Island tourism family. Next slide, please. Now, as small island states, we have, as I mentioned, our shared adversity. COVID-19 being one of the key ones for us. Of course, COVID-19 has affected the Pacific and indeed the whole world with international border closures. But when it comes to the small island states of the Pacific, our challenges become quite unique. And one thing for us, and as Chris had alluded to earlier, amongst the list of countries that have not opened in the Pacific, small island states make up a large chunk of it. So for us, we have been closed for much longer. what that essentially means is that we've experienced COVID-19 much later than most of the world. For example, the Federated States of Micronesia, after almost 2.5 years, have only had their first case of COVID-19 last week. So you can imagine, while the whole world is going through the different phases of COVID-19, here we have a Federated States of Micronesia in the Pacific that is only having its first ever experience of community transmission. What that essentially means is our experience with COVID is quite late, and therefore this essentially affects our ability to effectively get back into the flow of things. As you know, with destinations across the Pacific, Fiji, for example, has been open since last year, and they've surpassed their 2019 pre-COVID figures. Whereas for us in the smaller island states of the Pacific, we're still pretty much trying to make our way out because we're experiencing COVID quite late. The other shared adversity that we have in smaller island states of the Pacific is the climate change impact. And nowhere is the impact of global warming more evident than across the small island states, most of whom are low-lying atoll and are very vulnerable to the elements. And so for us, in this in the space of coastal tourism, this is an area that is quite unique to us because unlike other Pacific Island countries that have the option of coastal tourism and highland or interland tourism, we only have coastal tourism. We don't have the benefit of the mountains to have alternative types of tourism to offer. So the ocean is a bit more precious to us, I suppose, than most other destinations across the world. Connectivity, my colleague Chris also alluded to this. It is quite a challenge in the Pacific, but when you talk about the smaller island states, it's a more unique in the sense that across the small island state, the countries that I've mentioned earlier, these 8 countries, only one of us have an international airline, which means that the rest of us are at the mercy of either international or regional airlines to be able to get passengers into our destination. So that's, that's a very unique challenge that we have as a small island states. And obviously with the limited tourism infrastructure. A lot of us started or recognized tourism quite late. We recognized the importance of tourism and its value quite much later than most of our Pacific Island neighbors. And therefore the commitment to infrastructure development for tourism development is probably a bit behind than most of our Pacific Island states. And this is why for us as small island states of the Pacific, our needs have been grouped together as slightly more unique to then those of our Pacific Island neighbors. Next slide, please. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I said my presentation will give you a more of a Kiribati perspective because obviously that is where I am based, and I think I feel more comfortable speaking about my destination. And what you see there, ladies and gentlemen, is a screenshot of results of our international visitor survey that was conducted in 2019, just before border closure. So the 3 columns that you see on the left, this is the result of a question that we asked our visitors for the whole year from January to December. What did you like the most about your visit? And those are the key things that they enjoyed about Kiribati. And things that stood out for us is uniqueness. We're remote, and you'll understand shortly why we are remote. Obviously, culture, and this is very strong, not only in Kiribati, but across the Pacific, and of course, with our history as well. In terms of activities, what activity did they engage in the most? Fishing comes out as the most preferred activity. And you'll understand in my presentation, in my later slides, why this comes out as a top activity to do here in Kiribati, other than enjoying the warm tropical climate. And in general, they found Kiribati to be beautiful, to be friendly, unique, to be a paradise. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the perspective of travelers that visited us in 2019. Now I would like to go on to introduce you to the destination to give you a better understanding of who we are and where we are located. And next slide, please. Thank you. Kiribati. I am sorry I did not introduce our location earlier, but if you're wondering where in the Pacific we're located, one of the best ways to locate us is to identify where the international dateline meets the equator. Where these two lines meet in the Pacific, this is where Kiribati is located. We're actually the only country in the world that's located across all 4 hemispheres of the world, and we are the first country in the world to welcome every new day. And as a country, in terms of our space, we're spread over 3.5 square kilometers of ocean, of which only 811 square kilometers is made up of our 33 islands. So in some way, we're more ocean, we're 99% ocean and a 1% island or land. And that is one of the unique things about us as a tourism destination. In terms of access into Kiribati, we have direct flights from Nadi, Fiji, Honolulu, Hawaii, Nauru, Honiara in the Solomon Islands, and Majuro up in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. These direct flights obviously were pre-COVID schedules, but as Kiribati plans to begins to open its border from the 1st of August, we will be working on reinstating these flights over the coming months. As a destination, we are an experiential destination, and in terms of the type of tourism, we're mostly engaged in community-based tourism, and I thoroughly enjoyed my colleague from Bali's presentation earlier, because this is something very similar to what we do here in the Pacific, in that we live in small communities, and as a tourism authority, we're working with our small island communities to engage in community-based tourism, because we believe that that is the most sustainable way of engaging in tourism in our part of the Pacific. Next slide, please. Kiribati, ladies and gentlemen, is a journey back in time. It's a country where family and faith is valued above all else, and communal living is celebrated. And 3 words that are quite a common phrase if you do visit Kiribati, it's Te Mauri, Te Roi, au Te Tapamua, and that is the traditional blessings of good health, peace, and prosperity. And this is a destination where the word goodbye is not in our dictionary. Our traditional word that we use simply means we'll see you again or see you later, but there is never a goodbye in our dictionary. Next slide, please. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you a short video of Kiribati. I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that short video presentation to introduce you to Kiribati as a destination. Now, moving on to the next slide, Kiribati is a resilient and a sustainable destination. As I'd mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we're 99% ocean destination, and resilience and sustainability is at the core of who we are, not only as a destination, but as a people. As you would know, that Kiribati is quite well publicized across the world as being one of the destinations at the forefront of the impacts of climate change and global warming. But other than that, and because of that, our people are quite resilient in nature, and that is translating to what we are as a tourism destination. And so much so that because we've got limited resources, we developed the Kiribati Sustainable Tourism Policy Framework in 2021, where the main #1 goal for us is to protect our natural environment, seeing that we have quite limited resources amongst our 33 islands across the country. Next slide, please. Our future as a coastal tourism destination. Before we make plans in terms of coastal tourism development, one thing that is quite important for us is to recognize what the threats are. And we recognize that the greatest threat for us as a destination is climate change and its impact on coastal erosion. Because as I'd mentioned earlier, Kiribati, along with a few other Pacific Island countries, the only option for us is coastal tourism. There's no other form of tourism because we don't have mountains. We don't have the option of highland tourism or trekking or hiking. It's all coastal tourism, and this is why this forum is quite important to us, allowing us to share with you what some of these key elements that are quite special to us as a destination. And acknowledging the threat that exists, the existential threat that exists, is quite important to us as a destination. But at the same time, we recognize the opportunity of what coastal tourism can do for us as a remote island destination. And the beautiful thing about tourism is that it allows for its benefits to reach out to the most remotest part of the world. And Kiribati indeed is in one of the most remotest part of the world. But through coastal tourism and community-based tourism, we recognize that we're able to develop this sector or this industry to be able to mitigate the impact that I've identified above as part of the threat. And so Kiribati, we do acknowledge, therefore, that sustainable coastal tourism development is to be achieved through resilience and adaptation. And as I'd mentioned earlier, resilience is part of who we are as a people and as a destination. Next slide, please. For a better future in coastal tourism as a destination, I've identified 3 main things that we do as a tourism authority here in Kiribati to be able to develop a better coastal tourism. But obviously, I'm happy to receive comments from our audience if you do have other recommendations after my presentation. But to get to the 3 main points, the first one is a commitment. For us to thrive as a coastal tourism destination, we need commitment and recognition that coastal tourism, and what it means to us as a small island state destination. That is very important for us. There's got to be the political will from a government level to recognize that coastal tourism is a way forward for us. And number 2, obviously, once we, in addition to that, is policies. We require policies that will enable sustainable tourism, sustainable coastal tourism to prosper. And obviously, none of this will be possible without finance. Finance plays a very key role for us in the support on the development of coastal tourism. Next slide, please. In recognizing coastal tourism potential, I'd like to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, that in 2018, the government of Kiribati, through its 20-year vision, recognized tourism and prioritized sustainable tourism as having the potential to contribute to stimulating economic development for Kiribati. Prior to this, the government priority has always been in the fishing industry, in the fishing sector. So this has been received with a lot of enthusiasm, noting that Kiribati has that commitment from a government level through its 20-year vision to recognize Kiribati as having the potential to be a key industry for economic development for the nation. Next slide, please. Second is on policies that enable tourism. I am grateful that I work for an organization that is born out of a commitment by government that had a 20-year vision to recognize tourism. And through that recognition, they introduced the Tourism Act of 2018 that led to the establishment of the organization that I am part of in 2019, which is the Kiribati Tourism Authority of Kiribati. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we're a very young destination in terms of development and planning in a very serious term. 2019 is when we were established. And as we speak, we're currently working with partners such as the Pacific Private Sector Development Initiative to develop the Kiribati sustainability indicators, followed by a policy which will reflect a tourism framework policy, sustainable tourism framework that was developed last year. Also, we're in the process of developing a Kiribati tourism 10-year master plan, which will be from 2024 to 2034, giving us 10 years and 2034 to 2036 years to review, because the 20-year vision of the government ends at 2036. And now with this enabling policies and planning in place, it is quite important for us to recognize that tourism is a cross-cutting industry. We cannot operate in isolation. We need to be in sync with other industries and sectors within our economy. And so we work closely with other ministries like the Ministry of Environment, of Energy, and of Agriculture, because all in all, tourism is a very holistic industry, and it needs a whole of government approach in order for it to succeed. And we're grateful that in Kiribati, this is something that we work very quite committed on in ensuring that our drive to develop coastal tourism is successful. Next slide, please. And lastly, but certainly not the least, it's in financing, and none of those can be possible without sufficient financing. And so with government's commitment and recognizing the value of tourism, they have made a lot of investment. We're working with development partners to develop things like water, transport, healthcare, communications, energy, and of course, safety and security. We know that tourism developers and investors do not want to be responsible for developing the infrastructure for the destination they invest in. So we're grateful that government is actually putting in the work to allow for us to then go on to the next step and to effectively attract foreign direct investment on the understanding that government has established infrastructure in place, but all we need is investment into a destination that the whole world has yet to discover. And lastly, on this, in terms of financing is also required in the area of capacity building. Now, as I said, the Tourism Authority of Kiribati was only established 3 years ago. We're very late to the game of tourism. What that means is we've got very not as experienced personnel within the tourism industry, unlike other countries within the Pacific. And if anything, you know, as professionals, we know that we can learn everything, but experience is something you cannot learn. You have to experience it, which is where we are now at the moment, investing in capacity building and human resource development for our human resource or service providers across the tourism sector in Kiribati. Next slide, please. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are at the moment. And if you ask me the question of what is the future for us as a coastal tourism destination, and indeed for the other small island states that I've alluded to in my presentation, I would say that COVID-19 has been a breath of fresh air for most of us. What it has done is allowed us to sit back and reassess and reevaluate where we are and where we're taking our destination forward, allowing us to really weave sustainability into our planning and recognizing the impact that climate change is playing on our respective environments, and also allowing us to recognize what really is a priority to us, and that is our people. Pre-COVID-19, there had been a serious med rush in terms of increasing numbers, but now COVID has allowed us to sit back and assess volume, whether it's volume over value or value over volume, and then putting that into our planning for a future, because we know that as a vulnerable island state, we've only got one chance at this, and we're looking at sustainable tourism development and certainly resilient planning for coastal tourism development in tourism to take us forward as a destination. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to conclude my presentation by thanking you all. Next slide, please. Thanking you all for your time, and again to the Secretariat for allowing me this wonderful opportunity to present to our audience this afternoon. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions now or in the future. But once again, from us in Kiribati, Kampasin Rapa, and all the best for the rest of the forum today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive Officer of Kiribati.
We have two more presenters remaining for this session. Next, we have Professor Park Sang-won from Kyunghee University. He is here with us on site. He will talk about Beyond COVID-19 Smart Tourism in Design Thinking. Let's welcome him onto the stage.
This is Professor Sang-won Park from Kyunghee University. Thanks for having me here in this great Ocean Forum 2022. And then I'm going to talk about smart tourism in design thinking. As you know, the marine tourism or ocean tourism is highly vulnerable to the change of environmental factors, such as climate change, pandemic, and political issues. We can think about such as Maldives, where sea level rise due to global warming largely affect the destinations. Recently, once COVID-19 outbreak, the first thing the international parties have decided is a lockdown, which significantly influences visitor demand to the destinations. From these situations, we believe that systematic and more sustainable destination planning and management is crucial for tourism in general and ocean tourism in particular. I think, or I believe, that we can find some answer from big data. With the development of connected technology, tourism marketers and planners can obtain massive and detailed data over travel behaviors. Mobile technology that you have enable us or tourism marketers to track where, when travelers visit. Social media data like a Facebook TripAdvisor help us to better understand travel experiences and the service or product experiences. And then credit card data or search engine data allow us to understand or comprehend travelers' consumption and influence such behaviors. Recently, a number of local government tourism companies have utilized big data. But in my observation, however, most of them just simply try to present the analytical results without full understanding of the context, which generate limited insight to the industry. So I propose that we need to think about or propose the integration of big data with design thinking. Design thinking is a sequential process. First, we need to be able to understand what the current phenomenon and identify the problems. And then next, then we can create some novel or innovative idea that potentially addresses the problem we defined before. And then lastly, or at the end, we can implement the design idea in reality. So we can combine these two concepts towards big data and design thinking, which propose as a new concept, which is smart tourism design. So from now on, please let me introduce a case study with the Jeju Island as one of the most popular destinations in ocean tourism. So our research team had gone through with the Jeju big data to address those three steps of design thinking by applying such a big data approaches. First, we need to understand travelers. More specifically, try to identify travel mobility or movement patterns in Jeju. The Jeju Tourism Organization, they quite accurately count number of visitors coming to the Jeju Island because they have one international airport and then selected ports where people can go through. However, they still don't know which place people visit, and which pattern they display while they're traveling at the destinations. To address this problem, we analyzed some massive navigation data. As you may know, in Jeju Island, car hire or rent a car is one of the key movement tool or transportation in Jeju Island. So we analyzed over 50 million navigation data in Jeju using a number of big data analytics. As a result, we found out that there are 8 number of hot places, as you can see. We even find a specific spatial zone of the hot place from number 1 to the A, like clockwise way. Not only have we identified the hot places, but also we can come up with certain travel movement patterns. In general, about 70% of travel mobility has been observed within the hot place, within that square. Only 30% of travel movement try to travel from one hot place into another hot place. When you check the number 2 hot place, which is a Hamdok beach area, about 54% of travel mobility keep moving within that hot place. And then approximately 46% of people moving out of the hot place, from hot place 2 into another hot place. Among them, you can see more detail at the bottom, about 31% of the people with travel mobility is going into cluster 1, which is hot place number 1. Furthermore, thanks to the POI data, which is a point of interest data, we are able to not only understanding travel movement patterns, but also we can identify which travel activities travelers to seek for at the destination. In other words, we can understand why people visit at the destination. At the bottom of the right side, there's the 4th cluster, which is a hot place. You can see that people visit there mainly to prefer to visit folk village. When you check the Seogwipo downtown in the 5th hot place, you can see that a lot of people enjoy to visit waterfall, which is totally different to other hot places, as you can see. Now, we understand some travel movement pattern. Second understanding is characterizing regional functions. Idea is quite interesting. When we think about your audience, about 50 or 60 audiences here, every one of you have a different personality or different characters. We can apply that concept into the destination. Destination also may have a different role, different functions to attract the visitors coming into that certain area. Jeju Island is one of the key destinations, but as you can see, once you make the grid format, make a very sophisticated regional zone, and then we can define some function, play some role of the function in a specific area. And then we can define what the feature of regional functions entire Jeju. So from the same navigation data, we tried a lot of machine learning algorithm, and we come up with that Jeju can be defined as 4 different functions. For example, yellow zone. You can see the yellow color, like a square there. The people, the travelers who visit the yellow zone, they are mainly looking for accommodation. When the people visit such a red zone, we can assume that the place is quite attractive as a restaurant place. Likewise, green zone is quite popular to have the travelers as a travel attraction zone. But in the blue color, we call it multifunctional places, This means that people visit there for a number of different reasons, or to seek for the various activities, like car parking or convenience store, something like that. Here, so as I discussed before in the design thinking, the first step is try to understand current phenomenon and identify the problem. So just before we try to implement our idea of a smart tourism design, as you know, still we are confronting now, COVID-19 has been taking place. So another problem comes to us. So first of all, what we did was the impact of COVID-19 on travel industry. Of course, it's very common that when have a COVID-19 has an increased number, the travel demand will drop. But we will wonder that, what's the relationship between? It's a temporary relationship. For example, we have the daily new cases in Korea, in Jeju Island, when they peak, increase. It does not direct or immediately impact on Jeju tourism demand, because we always have the reserved flight, reserved hotel. So it will not have immediate impact. So we are wondering that once you have the peak of the daily new case in Korea, when? How many days afterward the impact will happen in Jeju Island? We found out that once the daily new cases increase in Korea, after 7 days later, the Jeju demand, travel demand, will get the impact. In addition to that, everyone using the search engine website to find out information. So we also added into Google data. So the Google query index data. So depending on, people use some query, search for information. How does it affect to the travel demand to the Jeju Island? We found out that if there are a lot of people query about COVID-19 in Korea, that will impact on after 9 days in the Jeju travel demand. So from this year, we find out the impact of COVID-19 on Jeju travel demand. Furthermore, have a movement pattern. It's quite interesting. And then, as the Dr. Song has mentioned as a speech before, it's quite consistent. On the left to the map and the right map, there are two different maps. Left map is showing the before COVID, and then right map is showing the during the COVID. Before the COVID, I just want to highlight some with the differences between two different periods of time. So Seogwiposhi used to be one of the hot places, and then right at the bottom, there is some. As you see that before, there's one of the travel attraction, Folk Village was located there. But during the COVID, it has been changed. All the beach area, ocean, coastal area become more and more popular, as well as Forest Park has been another popular area. And interestingly, the resorts can be another key area. I think Shinha World over there has become another hot place. Because these family travelers, they want to be isolated within their home, within the room, or a certain resort in their area, so that they can avoid some contact from other travelers. So ocean or it's a coastal area, and the forest park means that travelers during the COVID, they want to have outdoor activity. And then when we check the distance and diversity, much more shrink. This means that once people visit Jeju before COVID, they used to visit a lot of places in the one-time trip. But not anymore. Once they visit one place, they stay there longer. The movement diversity becomes much less. So now, this is what we found out there. So as a result, before we try to design implementation, which is delivery stage, we was able to understand what the different travel behaviors post-COVID-19. Travelers are more individual. They are more concentrated travel patterns. They are much more concerned social distancing, which means that their needs are much more sophisticated. As a result, we believe that crowd management And then also individual information provisions are a core issue. At the end, our research team, we develop travel recommendation system. So audience in here, so when you visit Jeju Island, please try to download Visit Jeju. It's a free app provided by government. And then there's one of the section, like you can see over there, this is AI behind over there. They're providing your individually different recommendations for where you're gonna visit. Second, which activity you prefer to have. Third, which food you want to try. Because once you open your app, we can find out your current location, your profile, all the back office with the server. So our algorithm keep developing it and then making some machine learning. So they provide individually different recommendation to the travelers. So then next year, so we're trying to add real-time such a crowded data so that we can help the people have more social distancing. So as a result, we can achieve both goals, crowd management, help them to have more security issue, as well as improve their travel experience at individual level. So in conclusion, so only having the big data is giving the partial understanding of it. But instead, we need to think about design thinking. So as a result, we can achieve smart tourism design. Thank you very much.
네, 박사원 교수님 발표 잘 들었습니다.
Thank you
아주
for your
유익한 애플리케이션
presentation. It was
소개까지
a
대단히
good
감사합니다.
introduction of a
자, 본
useful
세션 마지막
application.
발표자
Thank you.
서둘러
Now,
소개하도록
the
하겠습니다.
last
이번에는
presenter of this
미카엘
session, we have Mikhail Tonoglo from Jeonju University. He is joining us online. He will be talking about cruise and marine tourism in the post-COVID-19 era.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I would like to thank especially the Secretariat of Incheon International Ocean Forum and also Ms. Daisy Park for the invitation. As mentioned, I'm Professor Mikhail Tonoglu from Jeonju University, but now I'm joining online from a summer destination, my home place in Greece, Mediterranean, because of my summer vacations. And of course, this area is quite popular for marine tourism, something that we're going to discuss today. So next slide, please. Starting, I would like to introduce briefly the 5 steps, 5 parts of my presentation, evolving starting from cruise and marine tourism. Actually, marine tourism includes cruise and yacht and sailing tourism. We move next to the COVID-19 impact to understand how cruise industry and marine tourism in general is affected. Third, we are going to introduce the importance of having healthy oceans and how this is related with the developments and the evolution of the new era in ocean tourism. Fourth, we are going to see a few important steps during these steps for the transition from the current situation to what is expected or what is desired through these sustainability efforts. And finally, I would like to introduce a few meaningful conclusions about the whole thing about the challenges we face with ocean tourism and, of course, keeping in mind the sustainability of our oceans. Next slide, please. As I said before, marine tourism includes cruise industry, cruise tourism, and yachting and sailing tourism. We consider these the 2 main sectors related with ocean and marine tourism. Next slide, please. Starting to understand the volume of each of these sectors, I would like to mention a few current data. For example, the importance of cruise industry in terms of economic impact. We have, during the 2019, before COVID, almost 30 million passengers from cruise industry, around 50.5 billion dollars in wages and salaries, plus 1.2 million jobs, and in total, an economic output from about $155 billion. which is a huge, let's say, impact globally. Next slide, please. In the same manner, I explained that the yacht and sailing tourism is also a very important part. We see also that there is a huge volume in terms of economic impact. But additionally, we see that after 2019, 2020, the impact on this specific sector is much less, considering and comparing with the cruise industry. And we're going to discuss this a little bit more later. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. So discussing about the impact of COVID, which of course we know already, cruise industry was one of the most severely hit, and the impact was quite frightening. We remember images from media, quite frightening images about what happened in some of the cruise ships during the expansion of COVID, something that really created a big damage to cruise industry, at least for the 2 last years. Next slide, please. And the impact, as I said, because of the volume of the cruise industry was quite strong in terms of passengers. We had the 80% decrease in terms of loss of jobs. Also, 500,000 jobs were lost. And of course, the decrease of the economic impact was quite decreased at the same time. So next slide, please. This kind of impression and this kind of impact we can even explore through the performance, the stock exchange performance of the 3 major cruise companies, Caribbean, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and Carnival. And as we see, they still are fighting to recover, and the recoveries cannot be compared in any case, even now, compared with the performance they had before 2020, I mean, until 2019. Next slide, please. As for the yachting and sailing tourism, as I said before, we see the numbers still quite strong. As I said, the impact was not so serious. And we understand that this is mostly because of the different type, the different model of this specific kind of tourism. Of course, we speak about ocean tourism, but of course, a different model. It's more individual, more private. And of course, the conditions and the needs for more healthy and safety regulations is more possible. And that's why we have seen that the decrease was much less, and the forecasting for the future is more optimistic about this industry in terms of growth and economic impact in the future. Next slide, please. Moving now to the third important part is to connect what actually we understand about our oceans, how we really want to have our future development in terms of environment, and actually we speak about our healthy oceans. And we know very well with clear evidence nowadays, even from the latest reports from IPCC, that our ocean systems, ecosystems are under threat, mostly because of the pollution, the loss of the biodiversity, and of course the carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. And as I said, now we cannot have any excuse because evidence, and scientific evidence is very clear. Everybody now is trying to concentrate and motivate governments, organizations, companies to meet these kind of goals about the temperature increase for the next years. Something that we know already that even if we are able to manage and control these climate change impacts, and especially the temperature rising, some of the parts of the damage done already in the environment and especially in the oceans is quite irreversible, cannot recover fully. Next slide, please. And as I said, the sustainability of our oceans, of course, is something that is more important nowadays. We understand that as I said, with clear evidence that our oceans are under threat, and the ocean ecosystem is under threat. We opened an important discussion globally about the blue economy, the economy that is related with oceans and connects the societies, the environment, and the oceans in a very balanced way to develop the economies in a different way than what we used to do. But still, the main threats around, especially for our ocean ecosystems, remain the pollution, the plastic, and plastic pollution mainly, the ocean warming because of the increase of the temperature and the climate change, the eutrophication and acidification, who are most chemical, let's say, processes related with temperature and pollution, and of course the biodiversity loss, which in oceans we call it fishery collapse, something that, as we understand, is a big challenge for what we want to do for the sustainability in our oceans. Next slide, please. So nowadays we have to discuss more and deeper about how we are going to move forward, what kind of steps we need to do to go through this transition pathway. And this transition, of course, is related with oceans, the industries related like cruise industry. Actually, we speak more about cruise because it's considered, because of the volume and the type of tourism, is blamed more about the impacts of on the oceans. We know very well that we have super yachts and big cruise ships with 5,000 passengers and crew, 2,500 crew. So it's like a small city in the middle of the ocean. We understand that the marine pollution is something that we face. We understand also that the gas emissions is really having a big impact on the environment. Additionally, the cruise industry is a bit is blamed also about the lack of transparency in delivering and providing data, important data, that somehow we can measure and monitor these sensitive areas that are affecting our ocean systems. Next slide, please. And as we are going to see now, some destinations, some island or coastal destinations, because of their sensitivity, because of the environment that it's quite fragile, of course, very attractive. We started to see destinations like Galapagos or fjords in Norway that are starting to create regulations to regulate the whole cruise industry in terms of receiving and accepting cruise ships and tourists. So this kind of regulation is related with reducing the number of visitors and putting some specific limitations and regulations about the gas emissions or the waste and all these things. And of course, this creates a new challenge and new needs for the cruise industry to adapt, which has a cost, and of course, but is something that is necessary. And we believe that this is going to expand in more destinations, even to become somehow a norm and in terms of regulations globally about the cruise industry. Next slide, please. So the big question here is if the cruise industry, because of the situation, the status, the model of the cruise industry, the size and the volume, the type of experience, if the cruise industry is able to adapt and actually change in a way to, for example, come closer to the net zero goal that we have globally. We know very well that we have, as we said before, is blamed a lot, the cruise industry, about gas emissions. And a recent study actually found that a large cruise ship can have a carbon footprint greater than 12,000 cars. And we understand that these things have to be, in a very short time, changed in a way to become more sustainable and more environmental friendly. And as I said before, this needs a lot of investment, even in technologies, innovative technologies related with exhaust and cleaning systems and waste management, and somehow to protect the atmosphere, of course. Next slide, please. So, but during these steps and during this transition, we expect things to happen and actions from the cruise industry and the marine industry side. But from the other side, we have the destinations who are accepting and receiving tourists from marine tourism, from cruise and other parts of the sector. So these destinations, they are also able and they are starting to feel this, let's say, interesting need to respond to these challenges, determining, for example, visitor management methods to reduce the numbers. We have seen such examples, for example, in one of the most popular cruise destinations, which is Venice in Europe, in Italy. They started to have some kind of regulations for management, visitor management. Of course, some destinations, they started, and possibly more, they are going to establish carbon emission standards for the cruise ships that are reaching the destination. Negotiations will be on the way about the passenger fees and costs that can support the destination to invest in technologies in a way to create more environmental friendly conditions, not only for the visitors, but mainly for local communities. Monitoring systems about air, water, and waste pollution, of course, are going to be created in order to have some kind of environmental assessments on the local scale. And of course, advanced zero emissions technologies that are required from now on for most of the cruise industry ships, and something that is going to happen in the next years for sure. Next slide, please. And as I said before, these steps in the future, this transition pathway is something that, of course, includes innovation, technology, changes in the structure and the model of the ocean tourism, in the cruise industry, of course. But at the same time, we have to consider seriously that the mentality and the mindset of the customers, the visitors, the tourists, is also changing and needs to be changed. We have seen, especially during the time of the COVID, that we had an increase of the sensitivity and the response about environmental issues from communities, from tourists. So the tourists are becoming more sensitive in this case, and they are asking and expecting different kinds of things from the companies and the key players in the cruise industry. And something that is quite common is that we have to understand that the business as usual, I mean, whatever happened and how it was developed until 2019 is not considered anyway nowadays something stable, something feasible, at least for what we're expecting to happen in the future in terms of keeping some balance between environment, local communities, and of course economies in a much different way of the business models we were used in the past. So this also, as I said, includes serious change in the mindset of the tourists and the local communities too in this direction. Next slide, please. Now coming to the last part, in order to support the whole, let's say, idea of this transition and what really needs to happen in the future, I would like to mention a few key and important aspects of this, let's say, discussion that happens globally. So it's real that the pandemic gave us the last 2 years the time to think and reflect and become more honest and transparent about the economic and social and environmental impacts on the coastal and marine tourism. The industry, I mean, the marine tourism industry, is of course is a huge has huge impact, economic impact, but of course needs to change and needs to be managed in a more holistic and transparent way. In a strategic way, of course, we have to consider that is very important and vital and fundamental, the collaboration among the industry, the governments, and of course, all destinations, including the local communities, to decide about the next steps towards the sustainable blue economy, and of course, a healthier ocean ecosystems. Next slide, please. The last two conclusions are related with systemic changes, something that it's a more holistic, let's say, change, including different mechanisms, incentive-based mechanisms to change the behavior of people, visitors, even businesses, to understand and adapt the true value of ocean and natural resources, and measured in a different way, measured in a holistic way, where is included in as a market price and tracked in a national income account. Finally, the current and future challenges, and actually they are quite, let's say, difficult challenges related with climate, with health crisis, and even political instability, and poverty and food disruption systems. The marine tourism industry are facing also this kind of challenges, and they are becoming more, let's say, pressing because of the needs of change. As I said, the volume and the size of the cruise industry actually is quite big, and the challenge of this change is creating more difficulties, but it has to happen anyway. However, this transformation requires us to face the causes of our current problems, and of course, find completely new approaches that better fits to the future and to our goals to become more sustainable and live among our ecosystems. Doesn't matter if it's the ocean ecosystem or other ecosystems, in a pure balanced way, and evolve and develop our models, business models, and economies in this direction. Next slide, please. With this, I would like to thank you. And of course, I will be here for any further discussion or questions after the end of this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So this concludes all the presentations for the session 4. And I believe this industry, marine tourism, ocean tourism, is probably the area hardest hit by the COVID situation. And we were able to listen to informative insights from all the presentations. So let us invite the moderator again for opening the discussion session. Please welcome her again with a big round of applause. Thank you very much for the beautiful presentations, and I really enjoyed them. But due to time restraint, we won't be able to have a Q&A session, and I have an email. We have an email address here, so please take a photo of the email addresses, and if you have any questions, please include your questions into the email and send them to me. I really wanted to give you much time, and that's why I skipped the introduction of all the presenters, but we couldn't do that. And I told you how we learned a lot, how we changed the way we live through the COVID era. And through the COVID situation, we were quite like the men, locked in a cave. And that was a time for us to find our uniqueness, to revisit our uniqueness, and as was presented by the executive CEO of the Kiribati tourism agency. And he told us how he was able to identify the true identity of the Kiribati. And that was also an opportunity for us to shift towards digitization, digital technology. So I really enjoyed the presentations. Thank you so much for all of you. And I'll see you again sometime in the future. Thank you so much, moderators. I really enjoyed the presentations too. So we're really sorry that we couldn't give you the discussion sessions, but we have an email address of each of you. So please don't hesitate to send your questions through the emails, and we will make sure to invite you again for a better timing. Now, before we move on to the last session of the IIOF, I think it's very timely to take the last break. And I'll see you at 3:30 for the session 5 for the Arctic Ocean. Thank you.